This is the true story of one of the most shocking murder mysteries that will blow your mind. A case nobody saw coming. And the twists? You won't believe how it all unfolded. Lucas Hart, a well-known businessman, was found dead in his office under bizarre circumstances. No forced entry, nothing stolen. But then came the twist. Security footage showed someone wearing a mask that looked exactly like Lucas walking through his office hours after he was supposed to be dead. Who killed Lucas Hart? And why does the footage show him alive long after his murder? Get ready for a tale of betrayal, deception, and a mystery that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. It started like any ordinary day, or so it seemed. Lucas Hart, a well-known businessman, was found dead in his office. At first, police thought it was a routine robbery gone wrong, but the crime scene, it didn't add up. No forced entry. Nothing valuable was taken. So why was he dead? Why was he murdered? A few things didn't make sense. First, the way the body was found. Perfectly posed, lying on the floor in a way that looked almost deliberate, as if someone wanted him to be found that way. Second, the unusual lack of evidence. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. How could someone kill and leave absolutely no trace? But the most bizarre part, the security footage. What the police found on those tapes was unsettling. The footage was grainy, but the police could clearly see someone enter the building at around 2:30 a.m. They wore a full mask, a mask that looked like Lucas Hart. But wait, how could that be? Lucas was already dead, right? But there it was. The figure walked through the front door, walked into his office, sat at his desk, and then the video cut off. At this point, the case was a mess. Investigators were stumped. Lucas's colleagues swore that he had no enemies, that he wasn't involved in anything shady. So, who would want him dead? And more importantly, why was there a masked figure walking through his office? What was going on? Then, it got even weirder. Detective Sarah Finch was brought in to investigate. She immediately noticed something strange in the timeline. The autopsy report stated that Lucas had been dead for several hours before his body was discovered. But according to the time-stamped footage, he was alive and walking around up until minutes before his body was found. Sarah tried to track down witnesses who might have been around the building that night, but no one saw a thing. It was as if the entire night had been wiped clean. No one remembered seeing anything odd, but she knew that wasn't possible. People don't just forget murders. One of the most chilling things she uncovered was Lucas's phone records. The last call Lucas received was from someone he had never spoken to before. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't a wrong number. It was someone who had specific information about Lucas's business. Someone who knew things only Lucas would have known. Who was this mysterious caller? And how did they know everything about Lucas? As the investigation progressed, Detective Finch discovered something shocking. Lucas Hart wasn't just a businessman. He was involved in a secretive project. A project so sensitive that it could destroy reputations, ruin careers, and even end lives. And this project, it had a major flaw, one that only Lucas knew about. A flaw that, if exposed, could bring down a massive corporate empire. It wasn't just about money, it was about power, manipulation, and lies. And Lucas, he was in too deep. But here's the twist. Lucas hadn't been alone in this project. He had a partner who was still out there, watching, waiting. And that partner, they weren't just involved in business, they were involved in something much darker. One piece of evidence stood out, a key to a safe deposit box that Lucas had hidden away in a local bank. When Finch opened it, she found a file. Inside, the name of a person she never expected to see. The name was Lucas Hart. The file detailed his own involvement in the very project he'd been trying to shut down. But why would he create a file on himself? And what was the connection to the mysterious figure who had entered his office? As Finch delved deeper into Lucas's life, she discovered a chilling possibility. Lucas hadn't been murdered at all. He was still alive, and somehow he was hiding in plain sight. It turns out Lucas had faked his death, not just for his safety, but for a purpose he had never told anyone about. But here's where it gets even darker. Whoever killed him, or whoever thought they killed him, had no idea they were being watched. Because the one person who knew the full truth about Lucas was the person closest to him, someone he had trusted with his life. The question remains, who betrayed Lucas, and why did they think they needed to kill him? Detective Sarah Finch had been deep into the investigation for weeks. Every lead, every clue had pointed in multiple directions, but none of them had led to a satisfying conclusion. The strange security footage, Lucas's mysterious project, and his faked death had all left more questions than answers. But then, Sarah stumbled upon something that would blow the case wide open. It wasn't just the phone records, the hidden file, or the cryptic safe deposit box that held the key to the mystery. It was Lucas's own journal. It had been buried deep in a drawer in his office, hidden under layers of old contracts. Sarah had no idea how she missed it earlier, but there it was, the final piece to the puzzle. The journal was filled with paranoid ramblings, notes about his fears, his regrets, and his obsession with a partner he could no longer trust. But one entry stood out. "I have to disappear. If I don't, they'll come for me. I've made enemies, and they won't stop until I'm gone. I'll fake my death, and then the truth will be exposed." As Sarah read further, the true scale of the conspiracy became clear. Lucas Hart hadn't been murdered by a random stranger or even a business rival. No, the person who had killed him, who had staged the murder, was someone he knew, someone close, someone who had helped orchestrate his disappearance, believing it would protect them both. But in reality, it had all gone wrong. Lucas had been working with his partner, his business associate, on a project that threatened to expose corruption in the highest places. But the partner, they betrayed him. They thought Lucas had crossed a line, and so they had staged his death, hoping to silence him for good. The journal detailed everything: the secret meetings, the financial records, the way Lucas had tried to pull away from the project. His partner had seen it as an act of betrayal. They couldn't allow him to back out now, and so, in a twisted act of power and control, they faked his death. But something went wrong. Lucas hadn't died that night. He was alive, hidden, scared, and desperate to expose the truth before it was too late. Sarah knew exactly who the partner was. It was Emily Stone, the woman who had been Lucas's closest confidant. She had worked alongside him for years, but as the pressure built, Emily had snapped. She had thought Lucas would run and expose everything, but instead, she took matters into her own hands. Emily had planted the evidence that would lead the police straight to her. Security footage, false phone records, even a mysterious call Lucas had received. It was all part of the plan to frame someone else for his death. But now, the truth was out. Emily had been arrested that morning. The world would finally know about the corruption Lucas had been trying to bring to light, and the woman who had killed to keep it all buried. In the end, the shocking murder mystery was solved not by a twist of fate, but by the one thing Emily never anticipated: Lucas Hart's own voice, hidden in his journal, telling the world what had really happened. And with that, the investigation came to a close, bringing justice to a man who had been both betrayed and forgotten.